Good morning, everybody. On behalf of Governor Cuomo, I want to thank you all for coming today. We want to welcome the newest member to Governor Cuomo's team, RoAnn Destito. We'll be leading the Office of General Services. Commissioner Destito was unanimously confirmed yesterday. I want to thank the Senate. First of all, Senator DeFrancisco will be speaking after me, Senator Marcellino, Senator Griffel, for their very speedy confirmation process of this great new team member. And RoAnn has had great experience in government. She is somebody who is indicative of Governor Cuomo's search for talent, wherever that talent may be. And she has done a tremendous job. She understands working in government. She has served the Assembly with great distinction. She understands all the functions of government. Her tenure in the Assembly has given her vast experience. She has served the Mohawk Valley with distinction and New York State. She's been a tireless advocate for residents, businesses, and education, healthcare. Also has pushed for government transparency and accountability. She's brought new development and business to the Mohawk Valley, including redevelopment of the former Griffith Air Force Base, which I personally saw and is absolutely beautiful, as well as the future Marcy Nano Center. She has forged partnerships between local academic institutions, businesses, and the community. She has served as the chair of the Assembly's Governmental Operations Committee, which further supports her mission at OGS. She has worked to promote minority and women-owned businesses and enterprises, has been very active in reforming the state's procurement laws and purchasing procedures. So it's given her a really great background for the OGS position. With regards to technology and infrastructure, RoAnn has been on the forefront, serving on the statewide Wireless Network Advisory Council and the New York State Council for Universal Broadband. Another thing that RoAnn has done is she understands the value of being a public servant. She is the daughter of a World War II veteran and a Utica firefighter, which is tremendous, and also a public health nurse. She was clearly raised in a family that understands service and commitment, and anyone that knows RoAnn knows that that legacy and that commitment runs through her veins every day. I want to welcome Mary Rose Bean, who is here today also, who will join RoAnn in a few minutes at the ceremony. And without any further ado, again, the Senate did a great job with the confirmation, and I would like to welcome the esteemed senator from Syracuse, New York, Senator John DeFrancisco, to the podium. John?
I don't think there's anything left to be said. He pretty much went through her whole background, but I'm very honored to be here, Governor, and thank you for asking me to attend this very important ceremony. And I'm honored for several reasons. First of all, you made an incredible appointment. RoAnn is well respected by all legislators in both houses. She's worked her way through every piece of legislation. She's done everything the right way. And it's a real tribute to her and her family, the amount of hours she's put in public service. And it's a wonderful appointment. She's got the experience to do the job. And I know you want what the Senate wants as well, and that is an efficient government and an OGS that's going to operate efficiently and spend the taxpayers' money wisely. And that's exactly what she will do. There's no question about that. There's another reason I'm happy about this. She's from Central New York, and that you recognize that there are good, qualified people from Central New York, and even more importantly, that even though there are some bad legislators and legislators who do the wrong thing, who cause government to have to make special rules to make sure that the ethics of the state of New York and the ethics rules of generally the people of the state of New York are followed. And we may have to make special rules, but there are good legislators. And the fact that you chose RoAnn Destito to be commissioner of OGS is an indication of your recognition that there are good, sound legislators doing the right thing for the people of the state of New York. So congratulations, RoAnn. I know you're going to do a wonderful job. And Governor, again, thank you for having me here. Thank you for the appointment. And thank you for the things you're doing to change the direction of the state of New York. It's long overdue. The Governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you very much. First to the Lieutenant Governor, thank you very much for your help today and all the good work you've been doing. Senator DeFrancisco, it's a pleasure to be with you. I want to thank you and the entire Senate for the way you've handled this confirmation, not just this confirmation, but we've had a very good working relationship on all the confirmations, and they've moved expeditiously, and we have a good team in place, and you did that once again with RoAnn Destito, so we thank you very much for that. Before I actually swear in RoAnn, I'm very excited about this appointment. I've known RoAnn for many, many years. Her reputation precedes her. She is a stellar public servant. And when it comes to making selections for commissioners, people to run the government, it brings to mind the point that when it comes to running the government, what we often forget when we have conversations in this room is there is a management function to all of this. You know, we're here to make the government work. We're here to run the government. And there's an operational, practical aspect to making government work. Make it run efficiently, make it run effectively, because it's making a difference in people's lives. It's touching people. And how well it works, how well it runs makes a real difference. And we're at a point where we don't have the money, frankly, to do it any other way. We have essential services that we have to provide. We have to help people. We have to grow this state. And we don't have the money to waste to do it inefficiently. The office, OGS, Office of General Services, is the key to so much of making this state government work well. There is no one who is in a better position to lead OGS now than RoAnn Destito. She is the complete package. She knows government. She was chairman of the General Operations Committee in the Assembly, so she knows how OGS works. She's been supervising it for a lot of years. She's gone through all sorts of proposals about how to streamline, how to make it better. She's had hearings. She has all the practical knowledge you could have. She also has the right motivation. She is in government for the right reasons. She's in government because she cares about the state, she cares about the people in this state, and she wants to see this state be a better state. And that's what public service is all about at the end of the day. It's a great personal sacrifice. It's a sacrifice for your family. It can be very stressful. You subject yourself to all sorts of indecencies that you may not have to subject yourself to otherwise. But if you're in it for the right reasons, you're in it for selfless reasons to make this state better. And that's what RoAnn is all about. She is also esteemed by all of her colleagues, which is a special tribute. And as they went through the confirmation proceedings, they were deluged by colleagues coming forward and saying they wanted to wish RoAnn well and they wanted to be supportive. That's because she's done the service that she's performed with a gracious and a loving and a giving heart, and that has not been unnoticed by many, many of us who work in Albany and who have the honor of calling her a colleague. With that, I will ask RoAnn to step up so I can administer the oath of office. You ready? You really don't have to be ready. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
RoAnn Destito.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Governor Cuomo, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to serve the people of the state of New York as the Commissioner of Office of General Services. I would like to thank Majority Leader Skelos, Senator DeFrancisco, Senator Krueger, Senator Griffo, thank you for being here, and the entire state Senate for the trust that they have placed in me. Like the governor, I believe that the government must function at its best. When its own operations are out of order, it will not be functioning at its best. OGS is facing Many great challenges today, and I am excited to take them on. As Commissioner of the Office of General Services, I will work diligently to restore the public trust and work together to create a government that New Yorkers and all of New York can be proud of. Under the Governor's leadership, we will reform our state operations and make our government put the people first again. Going forward, we will procure services and commodities at the best value possible by harnessing the purchasing power of our great state enterprise. We will review the state's real estate and construction needs to ensure that we are maximizing the use of state-owned and leased office space. And we will retrain our workforce to support our new business processes in our enterprise. As Commissioner, I am fully prepared to cut waste, find efficiencies, save taxpayer money, and deliver more for the people that we serve. Governor Cuomo, I am extremely proud to be a part of your administration. Thank you for this honor, and let's get to work.
Beautiful. Very nice. Very nice. Questions, comments for the new commissioner? Okay, no questions.
Is there you say you want to find ways to find efficiencies. Is there a particular place that you think you want to start, that you need to start, that needs your immediate attention?
Yes, I believe procurement is a place. As a former legislator, I looked at the way we're procuring and not procuring as a total enterprise as the state of New York. And I do believe procurement is a place. And I also believe that through studies that have been done under the leadership of Governor Cuomo, that our lease space and our the 53 buildings that we own today need to be looked at tremendously.
So you're looking at having agencies buy together, perhaps?
As an enterprise, as business does, yes.
When there's a pause, that's when you try to run away.
Okay.
That's a little hint that I can give you.
Governor, what's your reaction to the overwhelming rejection of the contract agreement yesterday by Council 82, and what does it portend to the other negotiations?
Well, on the Council 82 contract, they'll go back to the drawing board or the negotiating table, whatever the case may be. In general, the situation with the labor union discussions that we're having, as you know, we need $450 million in savings. This was a very difficult budget to close. People all across the state have made sacrifices, and we need $450 million in savings from the workforce. We're trying to work that out with the labor unions so that we can avoid layoffs. Worst case scenario, if we can't work it out, would be up to 9,800 layoffs, which obviously is the last resort from our point of view. But that's where we are, and that's where we continue to be.
Governor, your speech yesterday seemed to be received coolly by the top legislative leaders, particularly your call for the public to tell their lawmakers pass these bills or don't come home. Dean Skelos said, it's not good to threaten the legislature. Shelley Silver says he prefers, actions over rhetoric. Are you fearful that this aggressive approach might get their backs up and impede your?
Well, I think that may depend on how the reporter posed the question, Ken. The Senator Skelos actually put forth a statement saying that he applauded the point that I was going to the people urging passage of the property tax cap, because Senator Skelos's point is the Senate already passed the tax cap. This legislature is the 234th legislative session. The question is, what will they do? They were elected. It's now their position and their responsibility to represent the people of the state. And the question is, what are they going to do? My job is to point out what has happened in the past. Senator DeFrancisco just said we're making changes that need to be made. Why? Because many of these issues have been going on for a long time, and there hasn't been enough progress. And what I'm saying is, the people of the state, this is the situation, these are the facts, this is the history, and now the question is, what does this Senate and this Assembly do? And when they go home, what do they say to their constituents? I believe they're going to be able to go home, and they will go home and say, we made progress that we hadn't made in 20 years. We finally addressed these issues. Property tax cap. When did we start talking about the property tax cap? When? 1995. The Assembly. By the way, I believe it was Assemblyman Sheldon Silver proposed and passed a tax cap, 1995. Assembly passed it, Senate didn't pass it. 1998, there was another proposal. 2008, there was another proposal. We've been talking about the tax cap for years. But the people of the state of New York don't have tax relief. So their point is, that's nice, you talk and the Assembly passes and the Senate doesn't, and the Senate passes and the Assembly doesn't. All they know is they continue to pay more and more taxes. The 234th legislative session can stop that. And they can go home and they say, we've been talking about it since 1995, we did it. Ethics reform. How long have we been talking about ethics reform? FERC Commission was what? 87? 1990? Last year it was vetoed by Governor Patterson. We've been talking about it for years. People of the state want progress. I think this legislative session is going to give it to them. And I will be first among the applause when they do. But what is my job as governor? To inform the people of the state, these are the facts, these are the issues, this is where we're going, and this is what I think needs to be done. By the way, it's also exactly what I told the people of the state I was going to do in my campaign. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what I told the people of the state I was going to do. They elected me, they pulled my lever. Why? Because I said I was going to do number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. You know what I'm going to do? Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. And that's what I'm doing. And I believe this legislative session has a phenomenal opportunity to make progress that hasn't been made in years. And I believe the Senate's going to do it, and I believe the Assembly's going to do it.
Just as a follow-up, are you still considering the use of a Moreland Act Commission, if there is no ethics reform?
And by the way, this is exactly the way we did the budget. When we started doing the budget, I went out all across the state, and I laid out the facts to the people of the state. I said, this is the situation. And the legislature responded phenomenally well. And I believe the legislature did historic work. And I believe they're going to do it again. On the Moreland Commission, I've been very clear. Again, going back to the campaign, if anyone wonders, well, where is the governor figuring out what to do here? I'm doing exactly what I said I was going to do. Go back and look at all the plans and all the speeches and all the books we put out in the campaign. We're doing exactly what we said we're going to do. It is unacceptable to have no progress on ethics. I hope a law is passed. If a law is not passed, then I will appoint a Moreland Commission as an alternative. But I hope a law is passed. But it's not okay to do nothing.
Governor, you're saying there's no progress on ethics, but in your video this morning, you said the legislators don't want real ethics reform. Is that based on conversations you've had with the leaders the last few days? Because there have been reports, I'm sure you know, I think Ken had one of them, that Speaker Silver has reached an agreement with you. What's happened?
You know, Fred, there is, as I've said before, there are many interim iterations in this building. We're meeting, we're talking, we're having good talks, we're making progress, we're close. I love that one. We're close, we're close, we're close. Yeah, I don't know what any of that means. I'm a relatively simple person when it comes to this. It's either passed or it's not passed.
You said today that they don't want it, like you've reached a conclusion that
we
they
have,
don't.
yeah, we have not had real legislative reform. We haven't had it for years. It was vetoed last year. I hope this legislature actually passes real legislative reform. And I hold out that hope, and I believe it's going to happen. But we will see. Well, they say they want to pass it. You know how we'll know that they want to pass it? When they pass it. And if they don't pass it, then they didn't really want to pass it. Well, let's try to read the tea leaves. We can read the tea leaves, or we can just wait and find out what happens by June 20th, when we'll actually know. But I am hopeful.
Does the clock on restraining or holding back on the Northern Commission panel run out at the end of session?
Casey, it's very simple. I said to the people of the state, if you elect me, we will clean up Albany. There are two ways to do that. One is the legislature passes ethics reform. If the legislature does not pass meaningful ethics reform, and we end this legislative session, and there has been no ethics reform legislation passed, and then the people of the state of New York are looking at yet another year where nothing happened, another year where everyone came and said, I support ethics reform, I really, really do, I support it, and nothing happens, and you have a new governor who came and said, I'm going to get ethics reform done, and nothing happens, that is avoidable, and that would be, I believe, a total failure of elected service in this state. So if they don't pass ethics reform, which I don't believe is going to happen, but if that happened, then I would appoint a Moreland Commission.
Governor, a lot of people are wondering what your position is on a bill in the Senate and the Assembly that would allow school districts to lower their contribution payments in the short term by essentially borrowing $1 billion over 2 years. Do you think that's good policy?
Jacob, I'm not, we're reviewing the bill, and I don't have a position on it yet.
Just in general policy, allowing localities, local governments to borrow in that fashion. I mean, do you have any views on that?
Well, local governments borrow, when you say in that fashion.
By lowering their contribution rates, which are skyrocketing, over the next 5 years, by basically borrowing their own pension funds and then paying it back with interest over a period of 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, what we are looking for, look, in some ways these local governments are between a rock and a hard place, right? We all want reduced taxes, and their pension costs are skyrocketing. What do you do? Well, first, long-term, you reform the pension system. So you reduce the long-term cost, and we're working on that. What do you do short-term? And there are a number of proposals that would talk about smoothing the increases over a number of years. Flip side is, the tone of your question suggests, you're just punting, if you will. You're borrowing the money. The costs are going to continue to rise. And what we're reviewing is, are there different financing options that could be coupled with long-term pension reform? So long-term pension reform, the costs are actually starting to drop in the out years. Is there a financing mechanism that could work in concert with that? And that's what we're reviewing.
Governor, Assemblyman O'Donnell yesterday introduced his own measure to legalize same-sex marriage. Were you pleased to introduce your own program bill on that measure, and did the Assemblyman jump the gun, as it will?
This was never, you'd have to talk to the Assemblyman about what the Assemblyman did. This has never been about on marriage equality, a vote in the Assembly, primarily. The Assembly's passed it before. People expect that it would pass it again. The question is really what's going to happen in the Senate. The discussions that I've had with the collective group that is working on this in a unified way is we want to pass a bill. We don't want to bring a bill up in the Senate that would fail, right? Nobody wants to have an instant replay of last year. We don't want to, it's not having a vote for the sake of the vote. It's a vote if it's going to pass, and the conversations we're having now over the next few weeks would educate the decision as to whether or not to bring the bill. And that is a collective decision, if you will. I'm working collectively with a number of groups that are supporting this initiative, and it would be a decision that we reach as a collective, that we believe with a degree of confidence that the votes are there, then we would move for the vote. If we don't believe the votes are there, then we wouldn't move for the vote, because again, it's not, we've had a vote for the sake of a vote. We want to win. We want to pass it.
One more. In your speech yesterday, you mentioned a tax cap, ethics reform, and gay marriage, and you called June 20th D-Day. But the state's rent regulations expire on June 15th, and I was wondering what kind of strategy you're going to employ to forge an agreement there on rent regulations.
Same thing, Glenn. As a matter of communication, you can't talk about, 10 different items. We have a lot of items that we're trying to get passed. I talked about 3 priorities that I think are relevant for the people of the state, 3 on a statewide basis, items that we can communicate and items that I think they should know about. We also have rent reform. We also have pension reform that we were just discussing. We also have UB 2020. So it's not an all-inclusive presentation of all the legislative work that we have to get done, obviously.
If you don't sense progress, will you go for the same type of strategy you just employed to get an agreement on rent?
Rent regulation is primarily an issue in New York City, for example, so you really wouldn't be talking about it that much in a suburb in Syracuse. But it's an issue that I am totally committed on, and we're going to be working very hard.
Governor, the speaker yesterday said that he presented you with the details of his property tax cap plan, but he won't say what those details are. Would you say what those details are, and also which ones you agree and disagree with?
Tom, you know my position on the property tax cap. It's clear, it's simple, I've said it, I've written it, I've yelled it. So I have my position, Assembly has their position, Senate has a different position, and Senate has passed my bill, and we're having conversations, and we're going back and forth. We do not have an agreement yet, and we have conversations that are ongoing.
What is the Assembly's position?
The Assembly's position obviously is different than my position, and we're having conversations to see what we can reach, and right now those conversations are ongoing.
But no details?
This is what I was saying before. The multiple iterations, to me, are basically irrelevant. Either you have an agreement or you don't have an agreement. Either you pass a bill or you don't pass a bill. What this building is very good at, and the process that you guys like to play is, well, we're close. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me. It's very easy to get close. It really is very easy to get close. It's the last few inches that are the problem. So on all of these issues, everybody gets very, very close. And then you can say, we're very, very close. And you can spend weeks saying we're very, very close, and then you never get there, and everybody goes out of town, and they say, but we were close. I'm not interested in close. Do we have an agreement? No. Is anything else relevant? No.
If the details matter in the bill, I mean, you said if it passes or not, but how many exemptions there are, how strong it is. You can have a cap that isn't really a cap if it carves out a lot of different spending areas.
That is exactly right. That's the point, Jacob.
So you're saying if you pass it, you're saying if you pass it or not, that's what matters, but it seems like the negotiation is over the details that matter in the end.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Do you have a position on, like whether you
Yes.
above 2%?
Cap as defined by my proposal.
You're not moving from that?
That is the whole issue. So you can call anything you want a cap, right? My cap is 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less, with very limited exceptions. You can have, as a matter of fact, the Senate proposed, their cap was 4%. And that was a cap. The Assembly, under Assemblyman Silver, in 1995, had a cap that had a finance board. I believe the cap in 95 was rate of inflation with a county finance board that would have to override the cap. So you've had a number of different proposals, 2%, 4%, 3%. FASO had a 5% cap. So a cap there are a number of definitions of a cap. My cap is 2% or rate of inflation, whichever is less. And you could have a number of iterations that are called a cap. I'm advocating for my cap. The Assembly now has a different cap proposal. And that's all the difference in the world to me. Do we have a proposal that we agree on? No. Senate passed my proposal virtually identically.
But if you're asking the public to get involved and to call their lawmakers, they know where you stand on this. They know where the Senate is on this in terms of at least what they passed. Shouldn't the public at least know where the Assembly is, where the carve-outs are, what they're pushing? Shouldn't the details matter if the public is going to get
At
involved?
one point, this is the detail that matters. The Assembly does not agree with my cap proposal. That's the detail that matters. If the discussion falls apart and collapses and everybody goes home, then they'll all have their own proposal and we'll all argue. And the Assembly will say, well, we were at 3 and the governor was unreasonable not to take 3 or whatever it comes out to be. And the Senate will say, well, we were unreasonable. And my point will be, and we all failed. I'm sorry?
Has the Speaker proposed any specific incentives that you might be warming to?
Warming? The temperature is rising, but I don't feel a warming effect personally, frankly. Not that I'm not a warm person, I'm a very warm person. But I don't feel warming about the cap proposal. Has he won me over? He has won me over on certain items, not on the cap proposal.
What do you think of exempting pension?
Have an expiration date, would you support that?
An expiration date on what?
Property tax cap.
On drugs, on certain things, milk, expiration date. These are all matters that we're discussing with these are all questions and issues that we're negotiating with the Assembly.
What do you think about exempting a pension costs as part of the cap?
These are all matters that we're negotiating with the Assembly.
Governor, Capital District schools on Tuesday are expected to approve budgets that would lay off 340 teachers, 700 positions overall, and I think 34 administrators. A lot of the district leaders have said this is a result of your education cuts. Wondering, what do you think that effect that will have on children's education, and should voters approve these budgets?
Here are the numbers that are relevant to me. From about 1996, the number of pupils in public schools has declined by 4% as a matter of demographics. The cost of education has gone up 120%. The number of teachers has gone up about 10%, and the number of supervisors has gone up 34%. 34%. How do you explain those numbers? Pupils come down 4%, teachers go up 10%, and supervisors go up 34%. You bloated the front office. That's what this is about. A bloated management, a bloated bureaucracy of supervisors, not teachers, right? Everybody will say it's about the number of teachers in the classroom, it's about the teacher-pupil-student ratio. And we just increased the number of supervisors 34%, when the number of pupils are coming down and the number of teachers are only going 10%. It's not always about more money. It's not always about more money. The answer isn't more money, more money, more money, and the more you spend, the better the results. It's not true. We spend more money than any state in the United States. We're number 34 in terms of results. So I reject the notion and the premise of if we spend more money, we will do better. Better manage the system. And when you had a 34% increase in the number of supervisors, it means to me that you should look at the management bureaucracy. Just like corporations, just like people in the private sector, because when you see those kinds of numbers, if it was a private sector corporation, it would be a corporation that is losing market share, that has reduced dividends. It'd be a corporation that's going bankrupt. It would be a corporation where you have an inflated management structure that isn't merited by the bottom line. And when the number of pupils are coming down and the number of teachers only went up 10%, you can't increase the number of supervisors 34%.
Governor, this has been the response, though. These budgets are drafted, but we're going to the polls on Tuesday. And I know this is the cavalry, this is playing out all around the state. Should voters be approving this if this is the response? We're laying off 10 times as many teachers as administrators.
If I'm a person, first, I don't know the particular school district, and I don't, frankly, I don't know the numbers, I don't know the facts, and people should inform themselves about the facts. That's your representation of the facts on the school district, but I need to know the actual facts before I made my vote. But I would ask, my suggestion would be, before people vote, they go and they ask these questions. How many supervisors? How much are they paid? How many teachers? Can we shrink the bureaucracy? Can we be more efficient? Can we be more effective? Because we don't have the rate of increase, we don't have the money to continue to fund the way we've been funding. 7% every year on average. You don't have that money. You just don't. And look, this is the exact exercise that we're going through in this state. That's what Commissioner Destito is going to have to be working on. We don't have the money. Well, maybe we don't perform the service. We have to perform the service. It's a vital service. We have to do it better, more efficiently, more effectively. We have to make the machine leaner. That's our challenge. And if we're good at it, we will do it very well. But more money? No.
What do you say to the argument that those school districts make that this bloated bureaucracy you're describing is a result of state-mandated special education services, of testing from No Child Left Behind and other reforms that have come out of the state? What do you say to that? They're saying that it's the state that's forcing them to bloat their bureaucracy.
I don't accept that. I don't accept it. I believe it is, by the way, it's the natural tendency of organizational behavior to promote, to increase the management infrastructure. I understand it. I understand why the salaries go up. I understand why there are more deputy superintendents and assistant superintendents. I understand the phenomenon. We have it in all our agencies. Every private sector corporation has the same forces, more promotions, more management structure. I don't believe it was forced by the state. I believe it was a natural organizational behavior by the local districts. And it requires a discipline and a conscious exercise to reverse it.
Governor, the natural gas industry is in town today. They're frustrated with the moratorium on drilling in the Marcellus Shale. What's your message to them?
Don't be frustrated. Let's get the facts, let's get the report, and then we'll make a decision.
Governor, back to the workforce contract negotiations. Has the process to allow for layoffs begun, and is there a deadline for if there is not an agreement that all of that stuff starts to kick in and begin to happen?
We've been going down two tracks all along, right? We're at the negotiating table, we're talking, we're trying to find ways to avert layoffs. At the same time, the clock is ticking, and we've been making internal plans on how you would handle the layoffs, and that's continuing also.
Thanks, everybody. Governor? Are we drafted things lists? We have layoff lists?
You'd have to check with them, Jimmy, about exactly where they are in the internal planning process. But I know that they've been planning, obviously, for the contingency that you don't reach a resolution with the union that would save all 9,800 positions.
But is there a date, is there a deadline by which if you guys haven't reached an agreement that things have to start happening?
I don't believe we've set a hard deadline, but time is short, and I think everybody's aware of that. Let's give another big round of applause to the new Commissioner, RoAnn Destito.